On today's episode of Bill and Frank's Guilt-Free Pleasures, we talk about a song that may or may not be about mermaids.
We talk about the only song that we can think of that includes waves crashing and seagulls crying.
And we discuss the merits of giving yourself your own nickname.
You're listening to our take on Cherish by Kool and the Gang.
There are certain songs that we do that evoke very, very specific images in our minds. When I say ours, I mean Bill's and mine, not collectively the same image necessarily, but we have our own individual experiences with the songs that we cover.
Yes.
And this song, Cherish by Kool and the Gang, I have vivid memories of sitting in the back of my parents' brown as brown can be 1984 Oldsmobile Delta 88. And the first time I heard this song was in the backseat of that car. And I remember thinking, this is just amazing. This song is just so pure and so sincere that it's just permanently ingrained in my memory.
Cherish the love we have. We should cherish the life we live. Cherish the love, cherish the life, cherish the love, cherish the love.
I don't have as specific a memory, but I do know that I heard it in the same time period that you did, which would have meant we heard it when it actually came out, which is kind of a rare thing.
It came out in 85.
Right.
I mean, it was an 84 car. I remember that specifically. I also remember how incredibly brown it was. I can't
You can't describe
overstate how brown it was.
I'm almost certain that I heard it swimming at my Oma's pool because she always had Joy 96 on.
Yeah, okay.
And on Joy 96, they play the safest of soft rock. And this is pretty safe.
Oh, this is such a safe song.
I mean, despite the fact that a gang is singing the song, Frank.
That's true, but I think they're the coolest of gangs.
That's true. You put Kool in front, and you're like, well, then this is a safe gang.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what I remember. And I don't know if this is a real memory or a memory that's attached to it, but it's as real can be, I suppose, is just like floating in that pool and hearing this song and kind of thinking to myself, like, this is the life, as a 8-year-old, really contemplating
Yeah.
the tougher things of the future.
At 8 years old, I think this song really put our lives and our experiences and everything that we've endured through 8 years of being coddled and taken care of and having no responsibility, really put it into perspective. You got to cherish the life that you have.
That's right. And little did we know how difficult the next 40 years are going to be.
I just want to go back to the backseat of that car and just, snacks and TV and everything. No mortgage. That's the life I want to cherish.
Yeah. So, Frank, I got a question for you. How do you cherish the moment? How do you cherish the love and cherish the life? Because I was thinking about this myself. Because, as you know, I came here late tonight, about at least a half hour later than I said I would, which isn't uncommon for me. But I was actually putting Elijah to bed, and I had to draw numbers on his back. I'm like, well, okay, he'll fall asleep at some point. I was at like 368, and he said, what number are you at? I said, 368. Okay, keep going. I'm going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Then I thought to myself, I should be cherishing this moment where I'm next to my son, getting him to sleep. And then I thought to myself, how do I do this? I'm like, well, you stay in the moment. You got to be ready. Then I heard a voice saying, you're going to disappoint Frank. You got to get out now.
See, and I cherish that moment that you put your family aside for the middling success of this podcast so that we could have this time together and talk about a song that came out almost 40 years ago.
And I'd like to think that 40 years from now, Elijah, you're sitting there with your therapist listening to this episode and working out your issues. I love you, buddy. All right, Frank, should we talk a bit about the history of Kool and the Gang?
I think so.
The band started 60 years ago,
Yeah.
1964.
1964. I had zero idea that they went that far back. My experience with them was understanding that they came from the mid 70s, but a decade before that even.
Right. So George Brown, the drummer,
Yeah.
claims that he was on his way to a candy store to buy gumdrops. And then somebody asked him there if he could play drums. And that's the beginning of the band.
Are you serious?
Well, that's his version.
Was that Robert Bell or Ronald Bell?
I don't know who he talked to there. So I was trying to figure that out. But it really begins, I believe, with those bells.
Robert Cool Bell,
Yeah.
who was the bass player, and Ronald Bell, who played saxophone, I believe.
The Bell brothers definitely seem destined for success.
Yeah.
Because you kind of ran down some info that you gathered on them.
Well, I also wanted to point out that they moved to New Jersey from Ohio, and to give himself street cred, Robert Bell gave himself the nickname Cool.
Oh, come on. I read all these interviews where he kept saying, it's because I'm so laid back.
Yeah, he gave himself the name
man.
Cool, at least according to Wikipedia.
There's nothing better than somebody making up their own nickname.
I tried to give myself a nickname on my softball team a number of years ago by calling myself the Hammer, and everyone on the team just called me Wiggles and then called my brother the Hammer. So I tried to give myself a cool nickname, and I got Wiggles instead.
All right, Wiggles, let's keep going. So, okay, tell us a bit about the Bells.
So Robert and Ronald Bell, their father and their uncle Tommy were both boxers. They had an apartment in New York, and I guess it was at some sort of a monastery, because also in the apartment was this Thelonious monk.
You worked so hard on that joke. So hard. And I heard it coming from like miles away as you tried to ramble through that. Or should I say, wiggle through that?
Oh, come on.
Okay.
I like that you let me struggle
Yeah.
through you don't stop me, you
No.
just let it happen. It's like watching a really slow train wreck.
Yeah, totally. No one got hurt, just everyone got embarrassed by the train conductor's behavior.
Not me. I self high-fived.
So Thelonious Monk is their godfather, right?
Yeah.
Was he godfather after the fact or before the fact?
I think it was after the fact, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they just made him a guardian or whatever. So Robert and Ronald Bell's father would hang out with Thelonious Monk. And Miles Davis used to show up and hang out with them as well, because I guess he also wanted to be a boxer, not just a jazz trumpeter.
Oh man, there's so much insanity that goes on around all this stuff. But either way, they're surrounded by credible musicians.
Yes.
And so, do you know the name of their original band? Now, it's 1964. They must have been like mid-teens. The Jazzy Acts.
The Jazzy Acts, yeah, exactly.
And then they changed their name to Soul Town Band when they wanted to kind of take on a more soulful thing from the jazz side.
Yep.
And then they changed it to Cool and the Flames, which I think was actually an accidental title given to them by like a bar owner.
Yeah.
And then the Flames was the name of James Brown's backing band, maybe at the time.
Yeah, James Brown's band at the time was the Famous Flames.
Right. So then they changed it to Cool and the Gang.
Yes.
And that takes us to 1969, where they released their first album.
First album comes out. They have a little bit of success with
Yeah.
it, but they really hit their stride. In 1973, they released their fourth album called Wild and Peaceful. And the big song on that album, at least the big song that I know of from that album, was Jungle Boogie.
Right. Which I think was in Pulp Fiction.
I think so, yeah.
For us, that was big. And then I was listening to their like collected works, I think yesterday, the day before.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at how many of those beats I knew. They're one of the most sampled artists of all time.
Oh, really?
Like over 2,000 or something like that. Or
Oh,
it might be
wow.
more than that. It was crazy amount of sampling, especially on drum tracks, according to George Brown. But also, you start thinking through their music and you listen to it, you'll hear Summer Madness, like, oh, wait a sec, that's Summertime, but also a whole bunch of other songs. And they were primarily an instrumental band.
Yeah, because they didn't have a lead singer until 79.
That's right, because they'd have like the guy doing the deep, scary boogie woogie voice.
Yeah.
Like Boogeyman, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know who that was.
This had to be one of them, I guess. I mean, I don't think you'd want to pay someone just to come in and make that weird voice.
Yeah.
If you listen through the first 10 years of the band, I mean, it's incredible. I read a review that kind of slammed them as being not that important and that Earth, Wind, and Fire was more interesting. But when I listened to Kool and the Gang, I mean, it sounded pretty good to me.
Oh, absolutely. Like with Jungle Boogie, that sort of was really at the start of the dance disco era.
Right.
But then they didn't have a whole lot of success after that. They hit a bit of a lull, and they attribute their lull to they kind of lost their way, their sound. They were trying to do something that they didn't necessarily want to do.
Right. They're trying to be more disco
Yeah.
and more predictable, and they weren't
Yeah.
being as funky as they were before.
Yeah, a little less free flowing as they were.
Because they are listed as jazz, soul, funk, rock, pop.
Yeah.
But I think they were trying to be just straight up disco.
Yeah.
That's not them.
That's not them.
Now, they did well because Saturday Night Fever put Open Sesame as one of the tracks on the soundtrack, which,
Yes.
of course, sold tons and helped them get through.
Yeah.
But they realized they needed a lead singer to actually take them to another level because they couldn't just sing ballads or any of that sort of thing.
Exactly. And on the strength of his previous work, James Taylor joined the group.
Tough, huh? I love that his nickname is James JT Taylor. Like,
Yeah, I know,
Hey,
right?
JT. I don't know if you know this, but James Taylor released an album right before you joined Kool and the Gang called JT.
Yeah.
So James Taylor, not to be confused with Fire and Rain, but James Taylor, who I think just sang around Jersey City or or Newark. I think it's Jersey City though. And he joins in '79. At the same time, they made a deal with this European producer named Eumir Deodato.
Not European, unless Brazil is in Europe now.
Ah, yeah, you got me on the geography. Deodato really does not sound Brazilian to me. It sounds kind of Italian. Perhaps my geography is not strong. However, this guy's ear was great. And they ended up releasing huge hit albums.
Yes.
So 79, I think, begins with Ladies' Night and then carries on to Celebration comes later, as well as
Emergency, which is
the one that this one's
Yeah.
on, right? So they have this great run. They end up leaving the producer behind and end up working with Jim Bonenfield and themselves for this album, which
Yes.
is Emergency. We haven't talked a lot about Celebrate before, but that, of course, is like every wedding DJ's
absolutely.
go-to.
It came out in 81 and it was used at the World Series. It was used at the Super Bowl. It was used the NBA championships when the American hostages were released from Iraq. It was used in that, like the celebration when they came home and everything. It was all over the place. If I can use a term that was used recently, it was ubiquitous. Do you think Nathan would be proud of me there?
I think so, and you used it well.
Oh, good.
Okay. Now, today's song would have fit for a lot of these as well, because we want to cherish the moments.
Yes, absolutely.
So this leads us to Emergency, which is released in 84.
Yep.
Now that we're here, who's in Kool and the Gang for Emergency?
So the personnel on the album is James Taylor, lead vocals, Curtis Fitzwilliam, Fitz is his nickname,
Right.
keyboards, Ronald Bell, the tenor sax, Clyde Charles Smith, guitar, Robert Cool Bell, bass, George Funky Brown on the drums, Dennis D.T. Thomas, alto sax, Clifford Adams, trombone, Robert Spike Mickens, trumpet, and Michael Ray on the trumpet.
Interestingly, we're in mid-'80s now, and all these trumpet and trombone people are put on there, but I don't hear it too much in this song.
No.
If you get the 12-inch version, you'll hear the saxophone.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's Ronald Bell or DT on there, but there definitely is the synthesizers that Bell and Fitz are working on there.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's a drum machine on this one.
Yeah.
So George Funky Brown doesn't really get to play on this song.
No, I think it's similar to what happened with Chicago, the band, right? Because there was all the horn players. They were the band with the horns. But then by the time the 80s hit, it was nothing but keyboards, guitar, and Peter Cetera playing the bass.
Yeah, it's time that they learn, if you're a sax player or playing a wind instrument, you got to learn how to play those keys, whether it's synth or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that leads us to this. And Emergency is recorded at Compass Point Studios, which is in the Bahamas, a place I've never been, but I sure want to go.
You're also thinking about Mexico by the other James Taylor.
That's right. See, got JT on the mind here.
So the story is, while they were working on the album, JT was watching the band members' children just play happily on the beach and in the sand and all that, and he thought, how blessed we are. God has been good to us, and we should cherish it.
That's right. So Ronald Bell gives him the I think it's an instrumental track, gives it to James Taylor.
Yeah.
And says, well, I don't know what he says to him. It says, here you go. James Taylor's watching, like you said, the kids playing. And that night, in one sitting, he writes the lyrics for the music he's got in front of him.
And I know, and I don't want to be disparaging or anything like that. In an interview that James Taylor gave, he said it was the first time he'd ever written a song in one sitting without any changes.
Yeah. And now you're saying maybe he could have made a couple?
Well, I'm just saying, when you read the lyrics, I don't think that was really difficult.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. They brought in, when they got to back to New Jersey, they brought in like an ace songwriter
Yeah.
named Sandy Linzer, who wrote another famous Jersey Boys song, Working My Way Back to You, Babe.
that's,
Four Seasons.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Do you remember the Smash Mouth song, I Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Baby?
Yeah.
They covered a cover of a cover.
Yes.
He wrote the original.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He also wrote a song that they're suing Dua Lipa over.
Oh,
But
okay.
get in line. Seems like a lot of people are suing Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
Anyways, Sandy Linzer says they brought me in to kind of add a little bit to it, but the song was, and you ready for this quote? Already perfect. And then he said, I did give him some things that they use in the chorus, but he gave it pro bono.
Pro bono. Yeah. And I'm not knocking the song necessarily. The lyrics are earnest and sincere, and they're simple.
Yeah, they're brief.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, yeah, you could write this in a sitting. I mean, to pull it off is amazing, but we will cover this in lyrical analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
The song does quite well.
It doesn't go to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts.
It goes to number 2.
It goes to number 2. It goes to number 1 on the Billboard Adult Contemporary charts for 6 weeks.
That's right. And according to the Wikipedia page, most likely written by Kool and the Gang, that it was one of the biggest adult contemporary hits of the 80s.
I didn't read it was one of the. It said it was the biggest.
Yeah, and I just thought that is absolutely not true.
No,
There's
no.
no way that's true.
But it is massive.
It is massive. I couldn't believe when I checked YouTube that there was 121 million views of the video.
Yeah.
So this is way bigger than I realized.
Yeah, and especially from a band you would more closely associate with Jungle Boogie, Ladies Night, and Celebrate, like those fun time songs. Those are the songs you would expect to hear from Kool and the Gang at a wedding.
Right.
It took me later in life to understand or to realize that Cherish was actually done by Kool and the Gang. I didn't think that they did ballads like this.
For sure. I didn't realize it either. This shocked me.
Yeah.
It's also kind of shocking that this is the third single.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so they have Misled and Fresh, which come out really close to each other. November 2nd, November 24th. So I don't know what that means in terms of the
It's fresh though. It's fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh.
That's a fantastic
Side.
song.
Yeah.
So there's no dissing it, and the album's really good.
Yeah.
I went through it the other day,
Well, it's their biggest commercial success, this album, right?
which is surprising to me too, because Ladies' Night and Celebration seem like the bigger things, which they were in their own way. But this album itself was a peak.
Yeah.
Little did they know the kind of end of the streak.
Yeah.
for them. So they'll have Victory, the next album, and then after that, it's kind of you become
Then
a
it's-
touring band.
Retro tours at that point.
Hey, do you want to know what else was in the top 5?
Yeah,
when
let's hear it.
Peaked at number 2. So Dire Straits' Money for Nothing was number 1 for the 3 weeks.
That's right.
And I think Cherish was at number 2
Number
for 3
2
weeks.
for 2 weeks. Yeah. Or, sorry, for 3 weeks. Yeah.
So I got one of the weeks anyways here. We got Money for Nothing, Cherish. Then we have John Parr, St. Elmo's Fire, which I think was a number 1.
Yeah, I went to number 1. Yeah.
We Don't Need Another Hero, Tina Turner.
Oh, nice.
And then Don't Lose My Number, Phil Collins.
Oh, wow.
So that's a pretty good top
That's
5.
a big top 5.
So there's 1985. I know we talk a lot about 84, but we also realize 85 is really huge. We also realize that 1985 is exactly the moment we'll take anything in as 8-year-old listeners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That takes us into Cherish Song Analysis.
So we're going to be talking about the single version, the
Yeah.
one that we would have heard on the radio.
For sure. Now, this kind of bothers me a lot. We talked about this with Sade earlier. I don't think we talked about it specifically, but the single version, the album version, sometimes they feel so different.
Yeah.
That it's a ripoff when you buy the album.
Yes.
And this one, the album version is fine.
Yeah.
However, they punch it up for the single version.
Yeah.
And improve on it way more.
Yeah.
To me. Frank, I know what you want to talk about, so let's go straight to it.
I can't think of another song that has ocean waves that started off?
Well, my Shoppers Drug Mart Packables Canon that I bought in 1993 had ocean waves, but it did not have seagulls squawking.
Yes. Waves and seagulls. I remember as soon as I heard those waves, they're like, oh, it's Cherish.
Right,
Because I
right,
didn't know it was
okay.
Cool in the Gang at
Yeah,
the time,
yeah.
right? And how much I was excited to hear this song. Starts off with the ocean, and then you have those keys that come in, that piano.
Yeah.
What I have written down here is opening piano. This is serious.
It is.
It's a very dramatic piano entrance. Like, not dramatic, big and bombastic, but it's very sincere. It's very,
earnest.
yes.
So that takes us to some earnest lyrics. Now, when I say
After the earnest seagulls.
yeah, the seagulls are definitely earnest.
Yeah.
And then sometimes a picture of seagulls squawking is like, I don't know if this is heaven anymore.
They're there just stealing French fries and stuff like
That's
that.
right. The raccoons of the sky,
Yeah.
as they say in the Bahamas. Let's take a walk together near the ocean shore, hand in hand, you and I. Let's cherish every moment we have been given, for time is passing by. I have that as first one, and then I have pre-chorus after that. Do you want
Okay.
me to go straight to pre-chorus?
Yeah, I have it just as one
Yeah, okay.
verse, but yeah, go on.
I often pray before I lay down by your side.
love
I have
that.
that underlined, like, together. They all come in there. They can't just let JT keep going. He needs
No.
help there.
Yeah.
If you receive your calling before I awake, could I make it through the night?
Let's take a walk together near the ocean shore. Hand in hand, you and I. Let's cherish every moment we have been given. For time is passing by. I often pray before I lay down by your side. If you receive your calling before I awake, could I make it through the night?
Just from a logical point of view, this makes no sense.
All right.
Sorry,
okay.
the last lines.
Yep. Okay.
If you should receive your calling before I awake, could I make it through the night? I'm assuming your calling is if you pass away in your sleep?
Yeah, called to.
Yeah.
I have Called to Death here, but I'm pretty sure that's a Steven Seagal movie.
That's marked for death.
Yeah, well, right, got it. Called to Death would be a great sequel.
Would be, yes. Maybe we should call Steven, see if we can get a sequel made.
That's right. Yeah, I had the sense that God is calling her
Yeah.
home.
But then the next line, could I make it through the night? So if she's passing before he awakes, I'm assuming he just sleeps through the night, kind of like I do.
Yeah.
So could I make it through the night? It's just like you already have, man.
You won't even know.
Yeah. It's already the day, so what's the point?
He's sleeping next to a corpse all night. He
Yeah.
doesn't know. Yeah, that went. Sorry about that. That sounded way darker than I
It
meant it
did,
to.
actually.
Okay. My issue is actually the line before that.
Oh, okay.
I often pray before I lay down by your side. When he says I often pray, I'm assuming this is the prayer. And so he's praying to God and he's saying, if you call her to home, could I make it through the night? That doesn't sound like a prayer. He's actually asking a question. Shouldn't it be like, if you receive your calling, help me make it through the night? But he doesn't. He says, could I make it through the night?
I read that line as being separate from the subsequent
prayer.
lines.
Okay.
So it's him saying, I often pray before I lay down by your side. That's the ending of that line. That's the end of that statement. He often prays before he lays down beside her.
Okay, so like a prayer like
Yeah.
Johnny Appleseed or
Or,
you
yeah.
know, now I lay me down to sleep.
Yeah.
Pray, you
Yeah.
know, and then the Metallica
Yeah.
comes in, right?
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with her just
Yeah,
dying.
it has no Enter Sandman in it.
I mean, it would be helpful to pray that she doesn't die
Yeah.
while she's sleeping. Okay. I took this from the Billboard Book of Rhythm and Blues #1s.
Yeah.
They have an interview with the Bells, and they talk about how their father passed away
Yes.
while this was kind of ascending the charts.
Yeah.
They said he listened to it the night he passed away.
Yeah.
So Ronald Bell says he was ill when this song became a hit. My uncle told me that my dad was listening to it on the radio on the night he passed away. I always think he must have heard that line, "Help me make it through the night." Ronald, it says, "Could I make it through the night?" There's not a single moment where it says, "Help me make it through the night."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be critical here. Oh, shoot, I guess I am.
Well, you're being a bit critical.
I'm being, a bit of a jerk here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say "help me."
Yeah.
Because then that would be a prayer that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe that was in the original lyrics.
Bill, can you just let the man have his moment there?
I know, I can. However, had they said "help me make it through the night," it would have made more sense. I think it would make more of a prayer. I don't want to be pedantic, but I can't help it. Frank, pedantic means
I was going to say, can you help me out there, please?
I'm kind of overdoing it and focusing too much on the meaning of the words. We're all about the feels here, aren't we?
Yeah.
But of course, I can't just let a lyric go away.
No. Can we focus more on the seagulls and the ocean?
That's right.
That's where I'm getting my feels from.
All right. You know what seagulls can do? Cherish.
Yes.
They just stay in the moment.
Yeah.
About 150 of them all on the shore.
Just grasping at that one guy's hamburger and fries that he left beside his towel.
Yeah. They're pretty horrible, aren't they?
They're not great.
No. All right. To the chorus, maybe.
To the chorus.
Cherish the love we have. We should cherish the life we live. Cherish the love. Cherish the life. Cherish the love.
Cherish the love we have. We should cherish the life we live. Oh, cherish the love. Cherish the love. Cherish the love.
I have written here, is there not a woman singing? Because there has to be a woman singing, because this sounds like a woman, and you're shaking your head at me right now.
I think it's only the members of the band singing falsetto backups.
And that's what I read too. I heard it might be JT doing all of it.
Oh,
which
really?
I don't believe, because in the video, they're all singing it. And when I see them live, they're all singing it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about that. I mean, you should cherish your love. You should cherish your life.
It's the sound of those vocals crashing on you like waves.
Yeah.
And it is one of the more pure sounds we heard in the 80s is
Yeah.
this vocal.
Yes.
And again, I said this earlier, like maybe it didn't hit as hard in the Niagara region, but I have a feeling this resonated all through the States, that this was heard at weddings, at summer parties.
Yeah.
Because I know Celebrate you'd hear a lot, but I think Cherish is that slow dance with the old folks.
Yeah. It just oozes with sincerity. It's akin to Always by Atlantic Starr.
That's right. I have a feeling there are people out there who can't handle this sort of purity. They call it, what's the word? Syrupy? Or,
Yeah, no.
Is it sanguine? I don't know if that's the word for it.
Saccharin.
Saccharin, that's right. I don't find it saccharin unless saccharin is syrupy. And I put syrup on my pancakes if they're lactose free, and I've also put it in my oatmeal. It's delicious.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want something sweet?
You're right, especially if it's syrup, because syrup doesn't have sugar in it.
Exactly. It's syrup. It's not sugar at all. There's
And you-
no way you're going to get diabetes from it.
That's right. You got to tap about 800 trees in Niagara to get one bottle, apparently. On to verse 2.
On to verse 2.
The world is always changing. And in case you're wondering, that means nothing stays the same. But love will stand the test of time. The next life that we live in remains to be seen. Will you be by my side? And then, of course, he's going to often pray before he lays down. By your side. And if you receive your calling before I wake, could I make it through the night?
The world is always changing, nothing stays the same. But love will stand the test of time. The next life that we live in remains to be seen. Will you be by my side? I often pray before I lay down by your side. And if you receive your calling before I awake, could I make it through the night?
All right, Frank, I do want to talk a lot about that first part of the verse too. I feel that it sounds fine in a song, but doesn't stand the test of scrutiny. So,
Or the test of time.
Yeah, the
Like
world.
love.
Yeah, the world is always changing. Nothing stays the same, but love will stand the test of time. All right, is that being balanced with that nothing stays the same, nothing including love or not including love, and standing the test of time? Does that mean you can change and stand the test of time? And why is it even next to these lyrics?
If I can go back to my OAC English class,
Okay.
we did a study on King Lear. We were discussing King Lear speaking about his daughters, his 3 daughters. And he was basically saying you can't quantify love. Love is not something that you can put into a box and quantify and qualify. Love is something that's outside of normal human constructs.
Right.
So if everything's changing, like love exists outside of everything that's changing. So love will stand the test of time, right?
Right.
I think. Does that make any sense?
That makes somewhat sense. If love is a test, if time is a test.
Yeah.
So the test of time, okay, love remains.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I guess that leads to the next verse, which really gets a bit interesting because he talks about the next life. The next life that we live in remains to be seen. I'm throwing some prepositions there, but you got to get there with those syllables. The next life that we live in remains to be seen. Will you be by my side? So is this a question that you're not going straight up to heaven, you're going back into life again? And
Is it a reincarnation thing or is he talking about
oh, the afterlife.
Yeah.
The calling.
Yeah.
Oh, how did I miss this? I just assumed it was reincarnation because there's this Kate Bush song.
Yeah.
From the 10 Words for Snow album. Mm-hmm. No, it's like 1,000 words for snow, 100 words. Anyways, a lot of words for snow.
lot of words for snow.
But in the song, it's a duet with Elton John. It's really, really good. Like, it's a great song because he doesn't go full Elton. Anyways, I'm losing myself here, but I'm going to catch myself. It's Kate Bush and Elton John singing about their love, but they're like two people who always get close to getting together and they're always torn apart. And in every life they live, it just never happens. They get close and then they get stuck and it's this horrible loop.
Oh, okay.
But this is not it.
Yeah.
'Cause he's talking about the next life because she's been called there.
Yeah.
That's the calling. Oh, man. Frank, you've helped me make sense of this.
The song is way more spiritual than I thought it was.
Yeah, so in the next life that we live in remains to be seen. Will you be by my side? Or will you be a mermaid somewhere in the water?
Calling.
That's a seagull calls those mermaids.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of ourselves for that video. I
Yeah.
apologize. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay, we got that. And then we get to the chorus.
Cherish the love we have. We should cherish the life we live. Baby, yeah. Cherish the love. Cherish the love. Yes, I do. Cherish the love. Oh, this love. Cherish the love we have. Cherish every moment we have together. As long as we both share hand in hand, you and I. Cherish the love. Cherish the love. Baby. Cherish the love.
What I love about the chorus the second time round is cherish the love we have. We should cherish the life we live. Cherish the love, cherish the life. But in it, we have Kool and Gang doing the vocals. But then you have James Taylor, JT. He's kind of punctuating everything. He kind of answers like, we should cherish the life. It's like, yes, I do. And
Yeah.
all of that, it just makes it seem way more sincere. Like, it's not enough just to say it. You need to exclamate it.
That's right. That's good. Let's cherish every moment we have together.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I feel like he's also hyping.
Yeah,
while
exactly.
he's also singing somehow.
Yeah. Adult contemporary hype man. I think I missed my calling.
And I believe we're getting to this section of the song that we'd say, we often will ask ourselves, what's our favorite part of the song?
Yeah.
I assume this is your favorite part, where after the second chorus, the waves and the birds come back.
Yeah.
And then spoken.
Yeah.
Cherish the love. Cherish the life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we're there. I mean, the chorus to me is just perfect. I mean, that's what I love. But that moment where he speaks it,
Yeah.
and then not only do we get to hear that, we get to hear the chorus all over again and repeat and take us home.
Cherish the love.
So, and I think that's 1A for my favorite part. 1B would be, we talked about this and sang this already, but I often pray before I lay down by your side. I love that part.
Yeah, I love the whole thing. This is so good.
Maybe we shouldn't sing together though next time. I don't know
Okay.
if we harmonize so well.
Okay, what part was it we shouldn't say?
By your side. We will always sing that together.
What did you think of the video?
The video is saccharine the way that the song is. It's sincere and earnest, but it is filled with so many tropes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And the kid in the video, I don't know this 100% or not, but he might be a terrible actor.
He looks so familiar to me that he must have been a kid in other things. He may
Yeah.
be one of the kids of the gang,
Yeah.
but he looks like a kid I've seen before.
There is a familiarity,
Yeah.
but like either he's doing such a good job acting that it seems too unnatural because it's such good acting, or he's just a terrible actor.
Yeah, it's hard to know, but
Yeah.
it does capture the moment just perfectly. Now, the video before this was Fresh. We've talked about this,
Yeah.
which is a wicked song.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know it till I heard it again, and then I'm like, oh, I know this. Jeez, Fresh. Yeah, it sounded exactly like that.
Yeah.
What we just did there. Now, that video, which I watched yesterday as well, that one has a Cinderella theme. So there's
Oh, okay.
two sisters who just happen to be very unattractive, and this really, really exceptionally attractive woman is forced to clean the floor while Kool and the Gang sing Fresh. And then suddenly, the really attractive sister's no longer cleaning the floor, but she's wiping the floor with everyone else with her crazy dance moves.
Oh, wow.
And then she loses her slipper at the end, and within about 30 seconds, they find her, and then they get married.
Not much of a search there, right?
No, it was hilariously bad for like the timing of the video. They
Yeah.
spent most of the time on her very
Unattractive sisters or stepsisters?
yeah, or her very alluring dance moves.
Ah,
Yeah,
gotcha.
like a lot of time. I bring this up because in this video, it's a mermaid coming out of the sea. And so I feel like they're
Is it a
kind of...
mermaid or is she just in a bikini?
No, she's a mermaid.
Oh.
So this is like Little Mermaid. The other one is like Cinderella.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So she's a mermaid and coming out of the water because that's why the kid points to her. And she's...
I thought she was just an attractive woman coming out of the water.
That's right.
Did I miss the mermaid part?
Yeah, you totally... She's a mermaid. Yeah, that's
Oh.
the whole point of the story.
Oh.
Wow. How many times did you watch the video?
Pay attention to it? Oh, like 5?
Oh. You didn't see once the...
Well, it was so just fleeting at the beginning when she comes out of the ocean, right?
So she's a mermaid.
The rest of it is just the beach, like
Yeah.
beach wedding tropes.
Okay, let's go back through this. Okay, so it starts off with them on the beach.
Yeah.
And the kid's playing, and then says, "Hey, look! There's a woman coming out of the
Well, he doesn't
water."
say it. He says it with his facial expressions.
He does. There's no one
Which
speaking.
might be terrible.
It might be terrible, and totally earnest, but
Yeah.
also like doing exactly what the director told him, which is pretty cute.
Yeah.
So this woman's coming out of the water, and JT quickly gets her a sweater to wear,
Yeah. Okay.
and then suddenly they're together talking about cherishing the moment.
But aren't they at a wedding? Isn't it a wedding?
no, this is just
Like a beach party?
yeah. Although one of the guys looks like he should be like an Orthodox priest.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know why they have an Orthodox priest hanging out with them.
Yeah.
Because there's no ceremony.
Okay.
I mean, he makes out with her on a, I don't know, blanket.
On a towel, yeah, or
Yeah.
a blanket, yeah.
Which maybe is Bahama's wedding ceremony.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so maybe the wedding trope is wrong. But everyone's wearing white. There's riding horses. There's that weird guy, that sketch guy. He almost looks like Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, as they go down the table, the
Yeah.
people eating, like, wait, who are these people
Yeah,
they've invited?
exactly.
Once they hit the Orthodox priest, I was like, I don't know about this, guys. What part of
What's
the party
happening
is it?
here?
There's also the campfire that they have,
Yes.
right?
At the end, yeah.
At the end.
Which
So-
is a classic beach trope,
Yeah.
the bonfire in the evening.
Now, it might have begun with the campfire as well. I think if you go back, the
Well,
campfire's going and they're singing, but then it gives you the full story.
Or there's torches around
Yeah.
them as they're singing, yeah.
Yeah. And it does give me the picture of what I always imagined like perfection to be. I have written here my vision of like heaven or perfect relaxation or just basically life's end goals is what I see in the video. Because to me, the idea of being on a beach where it's warm and waves are crashing is like, that's it. That's all we want in life. And I think I got this mostly from 1980s movies
Yeah.
and music videos.
Well, you're probably thinking more or less about the scene from Rocky 3 when Apollo Creed and Rocky are running down the beach together.
Yeah, and they're dancing in the water
Yeah.
together. Exactly. I just felt like they must be in heaven.
Apollo and Rocky?
Oh, they already were there.
Yeah.
But also these people in Cherish. So when I watch the video, I just think there's nothing more. So I feel for Kool and the Gang. They've recorded Emergency in Bahamas. Of course, you're not going to do anything after that that's going to match it because you're at the end. Just stop.
Yeah.
I just live on the beach for the
Just-
rest of my life.
Just cherish, like you said,
Oh
man.
my goodness, totally. Now the video has the mermaid coming out. So Frank, did you notice that at the end she disappears?
Did she?
Yes.
Oh.
No,
I thought
she-
maybe she went back to the room because she was getting chilly.
No, she got her calling. She went back to the sea.
Oh.
She went to the ocean. So you see the.
Do I not pay attention to things?
Yeah, because there's like a whale tail, but it's actually a mermaid tail.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I stopped paying attention by the end of the
Oh my
video.
goodness. Well, anyways, she's a mermaid, goes back, and then like, oh man,
Oh,
he's
okay.
alone. He should have been paying attention, but he was too
Yeah.
busy playing with the band. Typical. Give someone a guitar around a fire, they're gonna play it the whole night.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that?
No, because I can't play a guitar.
No, not you,
Oh.
but around somebody who knows how to play guitar.
Or
they
thinks
give-
they know how to play guitar.
yeah, but then
Yeah,
they
I've been there.
noodle for 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah. It's like, play a song. It's like, I'm just going to make stuff up. It's like, because you don't know how to play songs, do you?
Yeah. Or they should be really grateful to us because we haven't set them on fire.
Yes, exactly.
There is another Cherish video with mermaids in it. The Madonna video.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Anyways, I was wondering about the connection there, but it's about a mermaid. And if I'm wrong, that would be my most incredible mistake on this podcast. I do not think I am wrong.
About the Cherish video being a mermaid song?
Both of them.
Okay.
Both of them are mermaid videos, which is
Okay.
interesting.
I'm going to...
Defer to my exactitude.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, Frank, are you ready for some categories?
Yes.
Okay. Where are you likely to hear this song?
At a wedding in 1985.
Yes. And I have written here, wedding for an older couple,
Oh, yeah.
because it'd be especially poignant because their time is short.
Yes. And they need to cherish it.
I also have written here, high school grad from 85 to 87.
Yeah.
I feel Cherish Love could fit nicely
Absolutely, yeah.
during the slideshow, but I feel like if it's 85 to 87, that slideshow would have to go beep, beep, beep,
Oh, yeah.
and run by the geography teacher. All right. I also have end of a summer camp where the
Oh,
counselors sing
yeah.
this slightly awfully
Yeah.
and maybe just make everyone uncomfortable and lots of crying and the sort of thing where the cynical single teen is kicking pop
Rocks.
cans. Pop cans because we littered all the time back then. At least I remember that. Or
Were you
was that
sit-
when we stopped littering in the 85?
I think we stopped littering in the 80s.
Yeah.
That's when it was less cool.
Yeah, because we had acid rain. It was raining,
Yeah, and,
raining
like,
litter.
Yeah, and there's no ozone layer or something like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
too.
Glad we fixed that one. huh?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we just like shoot up a bunch of ozone? Like, it's not difficult. It's not rocket surgery, people. Like, why am I the one thinking about this? I'm busy with my podcast. I can't solve the world's problems.
Well, this is why climate change won't be fixed.
Yeah.
It's because of us.
Oh, yeah. Maybe if we stop the podcast, we can heal the world, make it a better place.
No, that's what the podcast is doing, Frank.
Oh, okay.
We got to heal hearts before we heal ozone.
That's true.
All right. I know this is a favorite of most of our listeners. The Michael Bolton version of this song. We've had several of our listeners reach out to let us know they don't like this part of our podcast and they may or may not be turning it off at this point.
If they haven't already turned it off, I don't think people listen so far in. all the
Okay,
time.
stop it, Frank. Let's just keep going here.
All right.
All right. I have it down as part of his American Songbook Volume 17.
Okay.
And in my version, his backing band is Whoever's Left in Color Me Bad, New Kids on the Block, and Backstreet Boys. All together, all falsetto.
Okay. And Kenny G.
Yeah, he's doing the
He's
saxophone
doing
for the
saxophone.
12-inch version.
Yes. So when does he destroy the world?
Oh, you know what? This is one where he heals the world, Frank.
Yeah.
He just starts creating ozone.
I
through
think so, yeah.
Through his vocals.
Yeah, he takes in oxygen and expels ozone.
You just need to plant a Michael Bolton in your garden and the world would be a much better place.
Man, I wish I had a Michael Bolton garden. That'd be amazing.
That could be the name of your future band.
Yeah.
Okay. There are several versions of this song, Frank.
Yeah.
We have the album version, the single version, the 12-inch version, amongst others. There's covers, but we kind of decided not to discuss those.
Yeah.
You got a favorite of those versions?
It's the single version.
I feel the same. Like, I thought the 12-inch might do it because the sax in there is really good.
Yeah.
And I feel like in a perfect world, somehow the saxophone ends up in the single version, but we don't live in a perfect world.
No.
Yet.
And you have to cherish the life that you have.
Yeah. Not the one that you want.
Cherish the love we have. Yeah. Cherish the life.
Next up, I have written here the cherish verse because
Okay.
I feel cherish is one of those key words that if you put it in a song, it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
So I got a couple cherish songs for you.
Okay.
We've already mentioned one of them.
Yeah, Cherished by Madonna.
Exactly. But there's the original cherish by The Association. Do you remember that one?
I don't know if I know that one.
Cherish is the word I
Oh,
use.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
such a great song
Yeah.
with a weird dark streak.
Yeah, it seems almost like chanty, right?
Yeah, but there's also this like wanting to mold someone into who they love and then realizing that they're never going to have the person. So it ends
Yeah.
up being like a obsessor song. Also, one more, Sade's Cherish the Day is so good.
Oh my goodness, yes,
Yeah.
please.
I know. And we just heard it and it just brought memories of that early 90s Sade.
Yeah.
It's just so
So
incredible.
good.
There you go. There's 4 Cherish songs. You have The Association, you have Cool and the Gang, you have Madonna, Sade.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great round of Cherish songs.
Yeah.
Hard to be matched.
Yeah. Almost a mixtape, but not quite a mixtape.
That's right. It was my original mixtape, but
Oh,
I
okay.
changed it up. Which leads us, maybe, Frank, into mixtape?
Maybe into mixtape. I'm
Okay.
going to let you go first on this one.
All right. So mine are songs to cry at during the end of camp week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Here they are. I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston.
Okay.
Right Here Waiting, Richard Marx.
Oh.
Okay. I Will Remember You, Sarah McLachlan, the original version,
Yeah.
not the live version. Goodbye, Spice Girls. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Goodbye, my friend. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And I ended with something I imagined camp counselors playing, angering me as a camper who didn't quite fit in, who didn't end up having the girl reciprocate my affections to her
Yeah.
while she's crying, and listening to the camp counselor who's caught her eye. Possibly they're involved in an inappropriate relationship, even though he's 16, she's 14. To me, it's a betrayal.
It's an inappropriate power dynamic.
Exactly. I know this because I'm a harassment rep for my school.
I think you need to talk to someone about your
I do.
unresolved camp issues.
Yeah, I do. Well, unresolved issues, that's a whole other podcast
Yeah.
that I'm doing on the side for a Patreon only account, which happens to be only accessed by my therapist.
Yeah. Is this the Patreon account where you pay to have
Exactly.
someone listen to you?
Exactly. Wait a second here. Oh, I never got to the song.
Yeah,
It's
no.
Fire and Rain by James Taylor.
Oh,
Because it's a
okay.
great song, but imagine people playing it and noodling on the guitar in front of the fire, and me being the angry camper wanting to kick that guitar into the fire.
Yeah.
Wow, really went off track there.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm actually quite surprised you didn't have either End of the Road or It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday by Boyz II Men.
I think It's So Hard to Say Goodbye would work really well.
Yeah.
All right, that's in 2.
All right, perfect. Okay, so the song Cherish is all about living in the moment and enjoying the moment that you're living in. So these are all songs about the same. One Moment in Time, Whitney Houston.
There we go.
All I Want, Toad the Wet Sprocket.
Good.
And because of the artist, Secret of Life, James Taylor. Which
Excellent.
is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Right Here, Right Now by Jesus Jones.
I remember liking, hating. I still don't know where I stand with
Yeah.
Jesus Jones.
And we finish it off with, and there is a connection, with Right Now by Van Halen.
Oh, I love that song.
Kool and the Gang opened up for Van Halen on their tour in 2012.
Totally insane.
Yeah.
It just, amazes me.
And this is the story behind that was David Lee Roth came to Kool and the Gang and said like, hey, you guys had ladies night. You were all about the ladies in the early 80s. Most of our fans are ladies. So it works. And on paper, you look at it and there's no way that it works. But apparently the shows were amazing.
I know. I wish I'd gone.
Yeah.
I mean, then they were expensive, but now seeing what ticket prices are, they
Yeah.
weren't. That's a very good mixtape, Frank.
I thought it was okay. Even with the Jesus Jones?
Yeah, even with the Jesus Jones, because it belongs. We belong.
Oh, wait, are we singing Pat Benatar now?
No, we only sing that line from the song. What's that line again?
By your side.
So the only thing I've left is Hallmark movie ? I didn't make one up.
It's tough to say. I mean, I think the Mermaid video that I didn't understand pretty much encapsulates what the song's about.
Cherish the love we have, as long as we both shall live. Cherish the love, cherish the love.
Yes, I do.
Cherish the love.
Oh, it's
Frank, you never answered me. How do you go about cherishing your moments?
I don't know. I think I just I sit back and I try to be quiet and take it all in and just do my best to create memories about what I'm experiencing.
You know, I'm going to say to you, Frank, you do know. That's right on the money. That's how we do it.
Oh, I'm glad that I know how to cherish now. My world's complete.
And I want to just say to our audience, after all these years, we cherish you.
And we hope that you cherish us and that when you listen to our podcast, you know that Bill and I are always by your side. This has been Bill and Frank's Guilt-Free Pleasures.